Join BetNow.eu, courtesy of the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. Just use the promo code TRUTH50. That's promo code TRUTH50.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow, that's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer. That's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and if you listened to us last week, you heard James Comerford, who is the founder, I guess the Grand Poobah of Replenishing Care and Technologies, and they have everything from CBD to Vox Socks to what we're discussing today, which is the PEMF machine. So, James, without further ado, I would like to introduce you. How you doing today, James?
I'm doing really well, Mike, and it's great to be back on your show or on your network, and good to have a couple of opportunities back to back to share the things we like to share with people. Yeah, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the PEMF machine, and I have had experience with the PEMF machine, and if you've listened to the Grueling Truth Sports Network over the last couple of years, you've probably heard me and James talk about it a little bit. But to give you a little bit of background, my son tore the ligaments in his wrist before his junior year of high school. They were telling him that he was going to have surgery, which would require 6 months of recovery time. We went to Dr. Fick in Cincinnati and used James Comerford and Replenishing Care and Technologies PEMF machine, and we used that for 2 years, never had to have surgery. My son's wrist, as of today, is perfectly fine. Also, my younger son, who was a freshman and in sophomore starting offensive lineman, had a lot of issues just from being a 15, 16-year-old starting varsity offensive lineman. And the PEMF machine had a lot to do with both of them making it through the last 2 years of football. My older son, the quarterback, has got a full ride to go play a little college football. And a lot of that goes to the PEMF machine, James. So you want to tell us what exactly is pulsed magnetic field therapy, or PEMF. It's early, James, in the morning, so those are big words. I get it, Mike. I get it, believe me. And I've had the benefit of using a PEMF machine already this morning, so I'm in pretty good shape. But thank you for the lead-in, and congrats again on all the wonderful things that are happening with your sons there. To go back to kind of a basic statement about PEMF, it's a battery charger for cells. And that's super important because cells are electric and actually need a specific electrical charge to function. And that's whether the cell is responsible for helping us think, helping us digest food, or in the case of many people listening today, or helping those that'll be listening today, it helps, helping us run faster than someone else. Cells also need the charge that is innate to them to do something equally, if not more important, and that is heal and repair. So when you do the math on all of that, once a cell loses its natural charge, we begin to experience, or are certainly more susceptible to things like reduced performance, pain, inflammation, and fatigue, being more likely to become injured, ill, and ultimately it's going to be a big contributing factor to the aging process. What PEMF does is give our cells back the energy needed, and in this way they actually help cells help themselves by tapping into and enhancing the body's own ability to heal and repair. So what's really cool about that is that PEMF will actually adapt to the needs and circumstance of an individual using it and work with whatever that individual has to work with, and basically do the opposite of what happens when the cellular charge is lost. So what happens, for somebody who's already fit and well, typically they're going to become more fit and well. It'll trigger systemic improvement in anybody. So if you're dealing, with an illness, what you're usually going to start to see, or you'll start to see the benefits of, is improvement to underlying causes and risk factors of that condition, and usually symptomatic relief. For somebody injured, typically you're going to see symptomatic improvement and faster recovery, and that's also true for somebody who's getting over surgery. And essentially anybody who uses this is setting a stage to become more resistant to illness and injury. So, you add all that up, and what you're seeing is a case where aging and loss of performance is slowed and often reversed, and sometimes even dramatically. And I'm living proof of that one. Some of the other great things about PEMF is it works quickly. It's safe and easy to use. And as much as I talk about the electrical charge in a cell, it should be noted that there is no electrical energy being passed when you use PEMF. It's a pulsed electromagnetic field that is actually compatible with the Earth's pulsed electromagnetic field. And I'll sum it up by saying the final one that everybody will probably be glad to hear: PEMF causes no harm.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because you see almost everything on TV now that supposedly helps you. It'll be a minute commercial. It'll be 20 seconds of what it can do to help you, and then 40 seconds of what possibly could go wrong. So when we look at this, James, how does PEMF work, and what does it actually do?
Well, as simple as the, reference to battery charger for cells is and sounds, what's actually happening is a very powerful set of improvements in biologic processes in the body. So when you use PEMF, you're going to stimulate cellular metabolism. You're going to increase blood and fluid circulation. There's tissue regeneration. You boost the immune system response, and that's in turn what triggers the systemic improvement. You start to see organs work better, and for example, you'll get rid of waste and toxins better. So everything just starts to upregulate and improve. It also is going to, stimulate muscles, connective tissues, intestines, tendons and cartilage, the brain, the peripheral nervous system. So you see a lot of improvement in function for most people fairly rapidly. And it'll also increase blood circulation in and around damaged tissue, and it'll actually help damaged tissue heal by bringing more oxygen into the cells. So it's accelerating injury or surgical recovery. And you mentioned about your son's use around hernia. I mean, at 60, I returned to full workout 9 days after hernia surgery because of PEMF, and literally avoided taking, an opioid I'd been sent home with instructions to take whenever something hurt. So, PEMF does a whole lot of things that go way beyond what people are used to experiencing.
Yeah, and the thing about my son's is there was no surgery there. He actually played the entire year and used that machine 2 to 3 days a week. Now, we talked about how it has no adverse effects, but there are, some contradictions and things people should know about before using this machine, though, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we do as part of our advocacy for it is we do complete training on how to use it, how to get the best results, how to make it very, individual specific and all of those things. But obviously there's a foundational stage of educating people on PEMF. So part of that are contraindications. And the two that, are absolute no-nos are pacemaker and pregnancy. And we're cautious around some other things like if you're using blood thinners, if you have metal implants that are made from stainless steel. It's not an absolute no, but we're careful around those types of things. And there's some others as well, and I won't run down through the list. But in fact, I'll kind of contradict myself. I pretty much did run down through the list. There are very few contraindications to this. And again, pregnancy and pacemaker are the ones that are the absolutes.
All right, so what should an athlete, athletic trainer, or coach expect from using PEMF personally or with members of a team?
Well, the first thing, if you're using it personally, and this is what I love when I work with athletes or anyone when we're using this, is that the machine delivers the energy through a coil that looks a little bit like a rubber hose. And you put that hose in different areas of the body, and there are different hoses for different uses and applications. But the machine is super, super user-friendly, if you will, and it can be dialed down to a level where the energy is actually being delivered, but you literally can't feel it, or you'll feel it very little. And what's great about that is we will turn the intensity up to a level that an athlete or another individual will tell us that feels right to them. And that's important because you're in there. And so the person being treated or treating themselves will be totally responsible and in charge of the degree of energy that they receive based upon the kind of feedback they're getting instantaneously from their body. So it'll be a very pleasant experience. It'll be something that at the end of, I would expect they'll feel very relaxed, because what happens with this is 95% of people after using high-powered PEMF will report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and a greater sense of well-being. And what's important for someone like myself who works with this to add to that is the cell will hold that improvement for 4 hours to 4 days, depending upon the health and basically overall, genetics of the individual. But with repeat use, you hold it a little bit longer, and eventually over time, you can start to get to a place where, you get cumulative healing and systemic improvement, and it starts to turn the momentum in a very positive direction as opposed to the negative one that most of us go through in life. So that's what's going to happen kind of on a what I would call a micro level when you're using it in a particular session. On a more macro level, what it's going to do is it'll amplify the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. For people who are working with professional trainers, it's putting the best of the best together, because it'll actually amplify the benefits you get from training, the benefits you get from professional care. So generally what you'll see is improved sports performance. It's going to promote fitness. It'll promote faster healing from injury or surgery. And generally it'll lay a foundation for, healthier life as you go forward throughout a career, deeper into the record books. And when the time comes to probably say, hey, I've shared my story and my legacy is done, it'll help you step out into a healthy next chapter of your life and help you make a choice about what that should be.
All right, James, can you give us some examples of successes people have had with PEMF?
Yeah, I mean, to go to the sports situation or kind of example, we've been working with this for about 12 years. And I mean, out of privacy and personal consideration, we don't talk obviously about the specifics of whom we're working with, but I can kind of talk in generalities. When I lived in Colorado, there was an NFL player that we worked with who had a knee injury, who got back to playing weeks ahead of schedule and could actually lift more on the knee that was injured than before the injury. We had another who was on injured reserve with a high ankle sprain, who after a very short period of time returned to active roster. In the last, you and I have not chatted in a while, as we talked about last week. Been very blessed in this last year to work with quite a number of elite athletes who are involved in team sports. And what I find, and I absolutely enjoy this, is I'll get a text late at night from one of the owners of a machine asking specifically about a condition. And, I'll text them back if I'm available, which is pretty well what happens in most cases. And the next day I'll do an injury or look up the injury report, and you'll see this individual has actually been using the machine to help other team members. So that's typically what has happened. So it's pretty much across the board, because it really doesn't care if the injury is an ankle or a shoulder or, a knee. It's going to work to help that individual deal with whatever they are working with. And then in my own case, I mentioned the hernia situation and returning to full workout. I actually did have the surgery, so that was after 9 days using PEMF. And I mean, as you know, I was in a wheelchair at 40 with Guillain-Barré syndrome, couldn't fall out of a baseball catcher's crouch. It's now 20-something years later. I work out every day. I'm pain-free and prescription drug-free. And the single biggest reason for all of that is PEMF. And it's what makes it so easy for me to want to share it with people.
All right, James. So how does someone learn more about or even get a PEMF machine?
Well, the simplest answer to that, Mike, is we shared on Friday a website, replenishingcareandtechnologies.com. That is RCANDT.com. And that's kind of our overall website that talks about our desire to improve and increase personal best performance and personal best fitness in the world. That also has a listing of our affiliate or divisional websites, one of which is www.replenishingtechnologies.com. And that's actually a site that is devoted to PEMF. And you'll see some others there, beside it, the Replenishing Care one, the CBD one, the SOX one, and so forth. But for anybody interested in more information on PEMF specifically, it would be www.replenishingtechnologies.com, or you'd be more than welcome to reach out to me personally at James G. Comerford at rcnt.com, or phone me directly, 647-289-3791. I assure you, if you do either of those things, you won't be put on a mailing list, and we won't be hounding you, wanting to chat with you, but we'll, address your questions, share what we know, and hope that'll be of some meaning and benefit to you.
All right, I have a question from a listener, which I want to remind everybody whenever we do the show, you can ask questions on Spreaker. Just go to the Grueling Truth Spreaker page, or you can ask us a question through direct message at Grueling Truth on Twitter. We have a question from Landon, who says that he recently has a partial tear of his bicep and his left arm, and he wanted to know if this is something, if PEMF would help that, and if it would, are there doctors that have this machine?
Great question, and thank you for that. Was it Landon was the person's name?
Yes, James.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Landon. The short answer is PEMF will help with the situation you're describing. Essentially, it's going to start to deal directly with the injury itself. Depending upon who you're working with, and this is one of the things, and I don't want to go back to talking about us again, but we do a full body approach when we work with individuals. So we recognize that if you want to, fully heal from an injury like that, you kind of need everything working with you in concert. So we do kind of neurological, metabolic, spinal, and a whole lot of area-specific protocols when we work. So to go back to the answer, to the question about doctors, these machines are in place in many leading practices. So we would be happy to see if we can find a doctor in your area where you could go and actually get treatment for that or try it out and see if it helps. The other thing, again, is you'd want to be, there's certain protocols in our experience that work better than others, but getting a PEMF machine on this would be one of the first things I would recommend to you, and we can probably help you find someone in your area that can do that for you.
All right, James, and I will remind you, what is our topic next week? Are we going CBD next week?
We are going to talk about CBD.
Next week, guys, you can hear me and James Comerford talk about the new store that Replenishing Care and Technologies will have up, where you can actually go buy the box socks You can buy most of the things that are on there straight through the store for Replenishing Care and Technologies. So next Tuesday at 10 o'clock Eastern Time live, myself, James Comerford, will be on here to talk a little bit more Replenishing Care and Technologies and a new store that will be up on their website where you can go directly and buy the merchandise that we have here. And of course, I want to remind everybody, especially the Box Sox, I just wanted to bring this up. But yesterday, I hadn't run probably in 5 years. Had a couple knee surgeries over the last couple of years. Weighed about 100 pounds more than what I needed to. Lost that 100 pounds over the last 7 months. And I've been wearing the box inserts that James sent me from Replenishing Care and Technologies. And yesterday, for the first time, I tried running. I ran for 8 straight minutes. Made it almost a mile in that 8 minutes. And it was the first time I'd run in 5 or 6 years, and I directly correlate this with the socks because my knees were so bad before from the knee surgeries and everything, and I started probably 3 months ago walking 2 to 3 miles a day, and it led up to yesterday by the time I was done where I was running. I know a lot of that had to do with losing the weight also, but even 6-7 years ago when my weight's what it was right now, running was almost completely out of the question. But yesterday, ran for the first time without any issues, and I think that it may not all be contributed to the Vox Sox, but I would say probably 70-75% of it. So I would definitely check out the Vox Sox too. And as I said, with my own experience with the Path of Purity and what it has done for my own family and my sons, my wife, and me, the Path of Purity, I think, is what the name says. It's the purest form of CBD. It's a tablet you put under your tongue, you let it dissolve, and the great thing is it's time released, so throughout the day you'll be getting that into your system instead of where you just put the drop under your tongue. It's there and that's it. So the PEMF machine, if you've heard me before talk about it, my son with the ligaments in his wrist 2 years ago, hurts him throwing a baseball. They tell him he'd have to have surgery, which would have put him out of his football season. He was the starting quarterback on his football team in high school. And he went to Dr. Fick, who had a PEMF machine, and made it through the next 2 years without ever having surgery. So I would highly recommend everything here. This is not something where I'm just trying to sell it. It's something where I've actually tried every one of these things, and every one of them works great. James is a great guy, and make sure you check out Replenishing Care and Technologies, and make sure you check us out next week where we're talking about the Replenishing Care and Technologies store. That will be next Tuesday at 10 o'clock Eastern. I want to thank everybody for listening to us today, and I want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 a.m. tomorrow, myself, Randy Cross, will be on for a college football preview show, as Randy Cross, 3-time Super Bowl winner for the San Francisco 49ers, works for CBS Sports Network now, so make sure you check us out there also. I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for James Comerford, Replenishing Care and Technologies, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.